you watch the Falcons in the second half of the Super Bowl, and you'll watch New England, Peter, and, they always use the term regress to the mean. What did you make of that performance by Atlanta last night in the fog?
If I were Arthur Blank, if I were Thomas Dimitroff, I would be exceedingly worried about this team for 3 reasons. Number one, the offense is 12.5 points worse than it was a year ago, with almost all of the same players. What that says to me is that, and first of all, Matt Ryan is not playing as well as he did a year ago. You're just showing these throws right now. Matt Ryan is overthrowing a lot of receivers, a lot. So, that's one thing. I think the second thing is Steve Sarkisian came in as offensive coordinator and said, it's not broken, so I'm not going to fix it. Smart move. But obviously, you're in a situation where if you're the coach of the team, you got to coach these guys. You got to work with Matt Ryan. You have to coach these guys, and you have to basically say, hey, listen, right now, Colin, the one thing I find about the Falcons right now, they keep saying things like, and Dan Quinn said it after the game last night, hey, we're an aggressive team. We want to be aggressive. That's who we are. Dude, you went for it on 4th and 6 near midfield and then 4th and 7 at midfield. You're playing into Belichick's hands. You're changing who you are because you so badly want to win this game and prove that we're the aggressive team. No, be smart. Do you ever hear Bill Belichick stand up at a press conference and say, oh, we're going to be aggressive. That's who we are.
No.
Do you hear him say that if they lost a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl? Oh, we're an aggressive team. That's who we are. I just think, at some point you say to yourself, coach to win this game. Don't give me this line about how aggressive you are. It's just, to me, I think the Falcons have to take a real deep look at themselves and say, you know what? There's nothing wrong with averaging 4.5 yards a carry and running the living tar out of the football.
Yep.
That's what the Atlanta Falcons should be doing right now.
Cowboys win. I'll tell you, I know it's just the 49ers, but I am so impressed with David Irving, DeMarcus Lawrence, and their pass rush. It's like, okay, one of the reasons I took Philadelphia to be a dark horse this year, I said their offensive-defensive line combo was the best in the NFC. I'm watching Dallas's young pass rush yesterday, Peter, and I'm like, with that running game, I'm like, oh, did you take anything more? Because I thought Dallas defensively blew me away with a pass rush. What'd you take from it?
I agree with you, Colin. How amazing is it? Who would have thought that as we approach the midseason of this season, that we would say, it's possible. It's not certain, but it's possible that the defensive front is better than the offensive front.
Exactly.
That's sacrilegious to even think that. But it's why I think that any year he coaches, you give Rod Marinelli a bunch of guys and, good players with some good ability, and Rod Marinelli is going to make a really good unit out of that team.
Yeah.
That's what he's done this year. I really have great admiration for Marinelli and also for the player acquisition process. Everybody laughs at Jerry Jones. I've seen him in his draft room, and Jerry Jones is not the autocrat that people think. He'll turn to his guys. He'll turn to Tom Siskowski and some of their coaches and, their scouts, and he'll just say, hey, what do you think here? And so, I applaud what the Cowboys have done in building their roster with their defensive roster with non-first-round picks.
And by the way, Jason Smith, a second-round pick, and Taco Charlton from Michigan. He's not doing much yet, Taco Charlton, but he's another guy, a long, athletic kid who I'm just blown away by their defensive front. So now I watched the Rams. And, here in Los Angeles, it's a busy city. They got Lonzo Ball. You got the Dodgers in the World Series. And I'm talking to a friend over the weekend. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, this is not make-believe. It's new schemes, new coaches. What are they saying, your sources around the league, on McVeigh and the Rams?
I think the vast majority of the people are slack-jawed around the league at what Sean McVeigh has done, walking into a situation where, his left tackle is 3 or 4 years older than he is. But I think, You saw this yesterday. You're seeing this play right here that absolutely was a great play. You showed it. It was the first play. I love this play. The reason I love this play is that Sean McVeigh calls plays that a lot of times you say to yourself, why did he call that? And then it works. And the point that I'm saying on this play right here that's so interesting, in my opinion, is there at the 9-yard line. He basically calls a run-pass option play for the quarterback, okay? And it's almost like a read option where he puts it in his running back's gut, and the entire defense swarms like an amoeba. And there's only 2 guys out there to go get him when he runs, and he runs in for a fairly easy touchdown. And my thing is, nobody would ever expect for Jared Goff to be running a ball instead of Todd Gurley near the goal line. It's insane. But he did it. He was wide open. He had a pasture in front of him. And I'm saying that is why Sean McVay is so smart. And I have to tell you, Colin, I was talking to Mike Tomlin at the league meetings this year. And when I just mentioned Sean McVay, his eyes lit up. Because he thinks that one of the things that you do too seldom in football is ask the new guys, hey, what do you think? You guys are the ones who've been studying this for 10 years. Sean McVay comes out of college and all he wants to do is study everything about football. And now you see what he's been studying. And I think Sean McVay, basically by saying to people like Todd Gurley, hey, listen, I want you to be Marshall Faulk. You're not just going to be a bruising running back. You're not going to be Jerome Bettis. I'm going to turn you into the most versatile pass catcher in football, or versatile running back in football, and that's exactly what he's done.
Okay, so Tony Gonzalez, the 14-time All-Pro, was on a show yesterday with me, and we were talking, in between the breaks and on the air, and he said that Derek Carr Thursday drive, he's like, let me tell you something. He's like, that kid, he goes, that game felt different for the Raiders. He goes, I honestly believe they're back for the year. Your thoughts on, I know it's a Thursday night game, but it didn't feel like just a Thursday night game. It did feel like the Raiders found something. Did it to you?
Colin, a seminal moment for Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders. There's no question in my mind. And I wrote about this extensively. I talked to Tony Romo, who did the game, and I talked to Rich Gannon, who's been in Derek Carr's shoes. And we went over every play of that drive. And they both just said, look at how confident he is, making those throws, perfect throws. And then the touchdown throw, after 3 times being told, hey, touchdown, and all of a sudden it's not a touchdown, either because of a penalty or because of a replay or whatever. Every throw that he made, look at the rollout throw, a totally unnatural throw for a right-handed quarterback. Roll out to your left, game on the line, season on the line. And what does he do? He throws it right in Michael Crabtree's gut. A perfect throw. That game, you're going to look back on his career, and Derek Carr, anybody who watched that game, you're going to look back on that career and say, that's a time capsule drive for a great quarterback in the NFL.
Finally, Jim Harbaugh lost. I still think he stays in college football with Michigan, which is a really great program. But I'm watching the Colts, and I'm watching them fall apart, and I'm watching the lack of effort. What's going on in Indy? Give me your time capsule in a minute here on what's happening, what will happen.
Knowing how desperate a person Jim Irsay is to win football games, and sometimes desperate to the point where he doesn't always do sort of the long-term patient, building thing. In my opinion, I will not be surprised if Chuck Pagano gets fired mid-season, during the season, this week, whenever. I won't be surprised. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I won't be surprised because Jim Irsay had to have been absolutely, totally embarrassed by that game yesterday. And I would be too if I had anything to do with running this team. What I would do right now, Colin, immediately is I would tell Jacoby Brissett, look, you're going to start running. You are. You're going to start running. You're going to be a mobile quarterback. Maybe you're not going to be exactly Doug Flutie, but for your own personal survival, you've got to get out on the flank and get out of the pocket a lot more. But to me, Colin, I think Chuck Pagano is the most endangered coach in the NFL right now.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.